That's one reason why I see ad campaigns fail. You don't have a sales process, or you don't have even a place that holds your leads. I've met too many people that are using sticky notes to keep track of their leads.
Welcome to the Pro Marketer Podcast. Marketing your firm doesn't have to be so hard. We're committed to cutting through the noise and bringing you the best strategies for building your firm.
Hey guys, Christian Jones here with TaxProMarketer. I'm the CEO of TaxProMarketer. I've got my advertising specialist, Vladimir, here. Vlad, say hey.
Hi.
We're glad to be with you guys today. We're doing an office hours setting today, just where we talk with people that are interested in learning more, specifically around paid ads. So if you're working with us already, we're tasked with building out your digital marketing from your website to your emails to your ads. And some of you might not be doing ads, and that might be why you're here, is because you're curious about whether or not adding advertising would be wise for you to do. And so our goal today is just to give you some more details. We like to teach, we like to train, but we don't want you to do this yourself. I just want to be clear. I don't want you to leave today feeling as if you have the burden of running your own advertising campaign if you're not running one already with us. So if you're with us already, hopefully this will maybe be some other options, right? We'll talk about Facebook today. We've got some great Facebook campaigns going. So some of you that are on Google, maybe talking about Facebook will be compelling. But if you don't have any ads going at all with us up to this point, then today will be simply an orientation of what is available and what your options are. So I'll try and let more people come in as they join, but just informal chatter on ads, guys. That's the agenda that we've got today. And so let me start from a high level before we pull in our expert, Vlad, who is brilliant. He runs our advertising department. He's a manager in that department, and he's been instrumental in us as a company kind of getting our ads to the place where they're at. And so if you haven't run ads with us before, you're talking to the guy that makes it happen. And we've got other people that are supporting him, other specialists in his department. But if you've been an advertising client, I'm betting you've talked to Vlad in the past. So this is something, again, I want to let him be the expert as we go through this content. What would be the reason to run an ad campaign to start with? What are the trips or traps you can fall into as it relates to running an ad campaign? We'll even talk about why ad campaigns sometimes fail. But I wanted to start our time just by going over briefly how advertising fits into the bigger ecosystem. I don't recommend that you run ads on their own without supporting marketing efforts, which is to say, what's your follow-up system look like? What's your website look like? What's your overall Google presence in terms of reviews and SEO look like? Because ads can be great, but a lot of people are, let's just say you can get traffic from ads and spend a lot of money and get no results. That happens a lot. And then you ask yourself this question of, maybe I'm the exception. Maybe ads can't work for me because of some reason. Most of the time, it's because you don't have the supporting marketing in place. And especially as it relates to your email follow-up. And you could also say your bottom of funnel sales pipeline. Do you have a way to stay clear with the leads that you're getting? That's something that you'll really want to think about if you do run an ad campaign, is what's your sales process? Because ultimately, that's what ads is trying to do, is drive more qualified leads to your funnel, to your sales pipeline, to your list of active people to go and close. And so we have
Christian.
those systems. Yeah, Vlad, jump in.
Yeah, just wanted to say, so essentially what you're saying is ads is supplementary to everything else somebody has to be doing online. So if you're only doing ads, and correct me if you think otherwise, if you're only doing ads to get some leads quickly without having the necessary infrastructure online, essentially a well thought out and an established GBP profile, social, stuff like that, that ads usually don't tend to work quite as well as they should. Not just GBP, but also websites and stuff. So everything needs to be tightly packed because people are not gullible. When people see an ad, somehow, either through Facebook or Google, they find you, they get acquainted with your brand, with your person, with your work, if they are considering working with you, they might look into other places, not just the landing page you brought them on, right? So
Right. Absolutely. No, that's well said, Vlad. You've got to have these other corresponding or foundational components to, I think, your online ecosystem besides just ads, like Vlad is saying. But I will tell you that there's a lot of agencies that's all they do. They're advertising agencies, and traffic is good. In a digital marketing ecosystem, you do need traffic. And there's a variety of ways to get traffic. You can get traffic organically. You can get traffic from social media. You could get traffic from cold calling and cold prospecting. You could get traffic from a variety of means, doing some LinkedIn harvesting. There's lots of ways to get leads. But advertising, paid ads, specifically on Google, but we'll talk about Facebook today as well, is something that when everything else is in place, when you've got the underlying ecosystem from a marketing perspective, you've got good email follow-up, you've got a good sales pipeline, you've got good just even sales tactics, you know where your leads are and you know how to close, which is not always a given. I think a lot of people in our space, sometimes they struggle with sales and closing. It's not that you can't sell yourself or that you're bad at it, but maybe it's not your forte. So those are all things just to name that you want to think about a little bit. When I get these leads, what happens to them? What happens to my leads that I'll get as I pay for them? So those are just some underlying things I wanted to name before we get into it. But advertising, to hit our first kind of main point here, Vlad, as we transition into kind of more of our tactical content, ads is, I think safely we can say, the fastest way to get more qualified, good leads into your pipeline. That is, I think, a very easy thing for us all to agree on because we're paying for those leads. It's not the only way. If you're not getting reviews regularly, if you're not sending out emails, if you're not responding to other requests on other platforms, right? Like ads isn't going to fix that. There's other things that you need to do to make your online ecosystem really, really work. But ads is quick. Ads has some geographic flexibility that I'm going to pull Vlad in and talk about here momentarily. But the big idea is that if you're trying to take your business in a new direction, a new service that you want to emphasize, or a new market that you're moving to or you want to break into, or just you're not getting the type of lead that you want, ads is targeted. Ads is targeted. And so we can do a lot of targeting on any platform that we advertise on, from Facebook and Meta to Google or otherwise. There's a ton of targeting in terms of keywords, in terms of interests. And so, Vlad, tell us more about this first point, how ads can get you more clients into your sales funnel. I'm kind of riffing here on what I think they would want to hear about, those people that are with us or listening to this as a recording later on. But from your perspective, how would you think about ads as it being a part of your overall strategy and lead gen?
as I mentioned just before, thank you, Christian, for chiming me in. Yeah, essentially, as I mentioned before, advertising is kind of supplemental. If you're not doing anything else, it doesn't make sense to do. In this day and age where, before, up until 20, 30, 40 years ago, if you were doing advertising, you had no data to follow up on. You didn't know who you were advertising to. You did not know who that billboard is being shown to, right? That billboard next to a road or a sign on a building or something. What online advertising is allowing us to do essentially is to have a vast collection of data across the board so that we can present and show our ads in the best way possible to the best people possible for the money. So that fact essentially makes it so that ads are very efficient at being served to the right people if targeted correctly. So
That's a big if right there, Vlad. That's the
yeah,
if, right?
yeah,
And
that's
maybe we'll
the
get
if.
into
So
that when we
mm,
talk about like why campaigns fail. But if done well, there's just so much data out there that you guys can utilize for someone on your behalf can utilize like us to try and get you in front of, like Vlad is saying, instead of that drive by billboard or the newspaper ads or print ads, whatever we've done in the past decades that were kind of the main form of advertising. Now there's just so much data available and it is overwhelming. if you don't know what you're doing, it is an overwhelming amount of data, but unto getting that good qualified lead. Vlad, talk to us more about the differences of, I know we're going to hit this a little bit more heavily later on, just in terms of strategy, but just in terms of like targeting, just that. How
Yeah.
do we target the leads that we target for our customers on Facebook and Google, but maybe starting with Google?
Yeah, so essentially making sure that we have enough time to look at the data that's being collected. That's what helps us target in the most correct way possible. So before we actually start any campaign, we do a lot of research pre-launch, obviously. We do keyword research, we do audience research, targeting research, and then we assemble a campaign, we start it up. After that, we still kind of don't know if that ad is going to be served in the right places or not. So sometimes, quite often, actually, in the first few weeks, in the first month, through the campaign actually running, we can see through the data that ad is not it's not resonating correctly. And then
Right.
yeah, so essentially we can see that maybe some of the keywords that we initially thought would be very good turn out not to be that good, right?
Right.
It turns out quite often that some keywords can pull in traffic that's unwanted or irrelevant. And we just cannot know that every single time. So after we analyze the data, after a few weeks, maybe even a month, we notice these patterns. We notice that certain groups of people are coming into our landing pages or website that we don't want to be there. And then essentially, so that's the core of the thing. The crux of the issue is a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They think that, hey, we research a lot of things. We know our keywords. We know our audiences. We just fired it up and then we let it fly for months and essentially spend and waste and burn away thousands of dollars on nothing. But in the meantime, you need to be looking at that data to make sure that your campaigns are on the right track. If they're not, you need to disable the keywords that are not working well, if on Google, or disable the creatives that might not be resonating well with people on Facebook, or even cutting off entire branches of a target audience that you might have thought would work well, but they don't. So
Yeah.
that's essentially how we target and how we work and build up our campaigns and make them work good in the long run and not just in the short run. So you need to pay attention
Yeah.
to it, optimize it, devote time to it, basically, baby it.
Yeah. Let me just highlight to some of you that are like, hey, I've never run an ad campaign. So, like, what? What are you saying? Let me just distill and re-say some of what you said, which is totally amazing. And that is the thing that makes ads work or not, is whether you have a technician like Vlad or others on our team that know how to look at trends and make decisions that go left or right. Do we keep this keyword? Do we keep this targeting factor, this interest factor? And when he says creatives, it's the thing that we're actually showing on Facebook, or if it's keywords, it's what we're paying Google to show your ad under. All of these things are what make or break an ad campaign, and is exactly why I would never recommend that you do an ad campaign yourself. I would never recommend that you try and launch an ad campaign on any platform. Now, there's always exceptions. Some of you might just be wizards and you might just know exactly what you're doing and have a background in this space. Okay, great. You'll know it if you've got that skill and have that confidence. But I want to just point out that Facebook and Google do want to make it really easy for you as the business owner to advertise. And I would strongly recommend that you don't, because the last thing that you have time for is to go and do what Vlad just said. It's looking at testing. It's looking at what keywords work. It's looking at what keywords don't work. And here's just one example. This is kind of getting into a point we'll break into here in a moment, but why do ad campaigns fail? Well, if you don't know how to target keywords on a Google ad campaign, the odds are that you're going to show up for keywords like free tax services or cheap tax services or tax service keywords that are related to government entities, whether they be local or federal. And so you've got your ads being shown to, like Vlad said, a group of people, an audience that you want to get rid of. You want to avoid. You want to avoid certain people that are looking for certain things. And that's what Google is. Google is intent based. whether it's organic or through paid ads. People are intentionally looking for keywords, and we serve up your ad when they type in those keywords. But those keywords have variable costs. And if you don't curate your list of keywords, which Vlad, I think you're talking about, but I'm welcome you to add your own spin on this in a deeper way.
You summed it up much nicer than I could have. So you're distilling the information that I'm trying to say in a much more digestible manner. So please go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is ads can work when you have someone paying attention who knows what they're doing. And there's a lot of advertising agencies or marketing groups that offer ads who will not do it justice. And we care about performance in our company. We care about our clients' performance. We care about getting success. So if we ever see data that looks either concerning or good, we make decisions on it. Like we lean into it more. We put more budget on campaigns that are performing, and we take budget away from keywords or groups that are not performing, or we change the tactics. Like it's a moving target. Ads is a moving target because it's a living thing. It's a very living thing. The cost for your ads to be shown changes depending on the time of year, depending on competition, depending on supply and demand, just basic economics. Advertising can be quite variable. And that's why a lot of people are scared of trying it, or they've tried it before with someone and they're just swearing it off. Like this never will work because I tried it once and it's not for me. And I would just say, that's not the case. Not the case. There's a ton of reasons, data-based reasons that you should consider running a campaign. Again, whether it's just seasonally, end of the year, tax season, busy season, trying to make a shift in your business, trying to go a different direction as it relates to the services you want to target or the clients you want to target, the geography you want to target. So Vlad, tell us more about some of that, and then I'll be glad to jump in too. But what are some of the, especially with Google, because that's where we tend to go, but let's talk about Facebook too today. What are some of the things that a Google pay-per-click ad campaign in terms of, I'm thinking geography, like nationwide, if someone says I want nationwide traffic, how do we use Google Ads to specifically get people leads from other places? How does that work? And what would you say to someone that was asking you about that?
It's actually super easy to do that. You just have to know which switch to flip. So it's really not that hard. It's just that the whole funnel needs to be tailored towards that other state or country for some in some cases even. So if you're planning to go ahead and target a certain state that's not yours, and you've noticed somehow, either through data, either through word of mouth, that there is business to be done elsewhere, and you're trying to break into that new place, you can do that via Google Ads, via Facebook ads as well, quite easily. You just need to be able to tailor a new funnel for that piece. So for example, if you're in Florida, you're doing accounting and bookkeeping in Palm Beach, for example, but you've heard from somebody that, from some of your colleagues, some of your coworkers, that there is business to be done elsewhere, maybe perhaps in another state close to Florida. How we would go about it is we would create a new campaign specific for that purpose. So we're trying to target Texas, for example. From Florida, we have to set that up in the correct way. So we don't want to siphon off traffic from Florida into that Texan campaign. We need to make sure to place the right exclusions in that campaign,
Right.
and then, yeah, and obviously do a new landing page, do a new ad entirely to phrase it in a way that resonates more with
Right.
that different audience. So that's essentially how that's done. And obviously flip a switch on Google Ads to make sure we're targeting that area of that we want. That's not necessarily the one that our business is in right now.
Yeah,
So
that's good. Hey, let's keep going on that path because you just mentioned something that I think people need to hear about because there's a lot of ink spilled or a lot of words spoken about the ad itself. Like what keywords are we going after, or what's my content, my creative on Facebook, what images am I using, which matters. But I've heard you talk a lot about landing pages
yeah.
and the importance of landing pages. So talk about the importance and how that is a huge factor for whether your ads will work or not. It's that thing that happens after you click. Talk about landing pages to us for a sec.
Yeah, absolutely. So a landing page, why? So a lot of people actually ask, why even use a landing page? Why not just use my website? I'm like, well, we can, but that's not ideal. For specific, like if we're talking Google Ads, it's, as Christian mentioned, intent-based. So if it's intent-based, we really want to make sure that if we're driving traffic through an ad to some
Right.
place, we want to make sure that that place is a good place for them to be, right? If they land just on your website, on your homepage, that's not like it's not terrible, but it's definitely nowhere near an ideal place for somebody to be who's specifically looking for accounting services in Colorado. I don't know. So if they're
Yeah.
looking for accounting services for small businesses or hairdressers, or I don't even know what, you should have like a specific, that's why it's called a landing page, right? So they land on it. Obviously, after the fact, after they click on the ad, they need to land on a relevant keyword relevant landing page that addresses the exact issue they're looking to solve. So if somebody's looking to solve their issue of they need to outsource their bookkeeping, they don't have enough time to deal with it, you need to make sure that the landing page conveys that information directly to somebody after they click. So essentially, if you have a good ad or even a good visual on your Facebook ads, that's a separate issue. On Facebook ads, visual is king, creative is king. But even if you get all that right, targeting, visual, ad copy, everything's nice. And if somebody gets to a page that just does not hook them in the right way, you're essentially burning money away. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. You need to tie in the ad you made. Actually, no, you need to tie in the targeting with the ad and then the ad with the landing page so that you essentially have this coherent funnel of people going in the right direction where you want them to go and not all willy-nilly. So if your campaign doesn't have good targeting, that's
Right.
one issue. If your landing page is not conveying the right information to the individuals, that's another issue. So if there's a break in communication between all these three, like let's say bubbles, then you're not doing ads the correct way. That's
And you're
to
kind of
sum it
hitting
up.
one of the main things we wanted to hit, which is why some ad campaigns fail. So you just kind of hit those three areas. Is there anything else that, because I might add one other thing to why an ad campaign may fail, but is there anything else on your end of why you typically see ad campaigns not work?
Yeah, so there are a few things. I have them written down just so I don't forget because they
Yeah,
are
yeah,
very, very tactically assembled, and I wanted to convey this to whoever is listening right now. So lack of clear objective of the ad campaign. You need to know if you're chasing leads or if you're chasing exposure. So you need to know what you're doing, what kind of audience you're reaching out to, what the goal is. So that's one thing. Another thing, misaligned targeting. This is essentially what I was talking about just before. Then poor ad creative and messaging. So if that does not resonate with your target audience, either on Google or on Facebook, that's an issue, obviously. Then if you're ignoring, that's the thing we talked about at the beginning, Christian. If you're ignoring data-driven optimization, and if you just let your ad campaign fly and essentially go
yes,
on by its own for months at a time, that's not a good thing. And obviously, what we just mentioned, inadequate landing pages.
yeah,
Sometimes, I have to get this out there, sometimes there are much deeper factors that can negatively impact your ad campaign performance that are not necessarily tied to
yeah,
these five things that I just mentioned. So these five things that I just mentioned, those are like, in my world, in our world, they're the basics. So if you don't know, if you're not doing the basics correctly, everything else falls
right,
apart. But then
yeah,
even after we have all of this like steady and we every all 5 points that I just mentioned are there, we hit them all
right,
correctly. Even after that, that's where actual ads specialty comes in, and that's the optimization part. That's
yeah,
essentially it. So sometimes if you're not noticing patterns in data on time, you might see your ad campaign run into the ground, even though you had everything prepared correctly for it pre-launch. So
Yeah.
if you launch your ad campaign, if you're not seeing certain things that are wrong with it on time via the data, essentially, your ad campaign might fail miserably after a few months. Not, well, it doesn't fail on one day, it just keeps failing. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
essentially a data. So out of these few points that I mentioned, ignoring data-driven optimization, that's like the key part.
That's well said.
I'm sorry, Christian, that can make a campaign burn money away unnecessarily.
Yeah, well said. And I would add one more thing to that, just in terms of your sales process, as we've mentioned before. And for us, Client Stack is our bottom of funnel software that does a lot. It's a CRM, it's a sales pipeline, but your ads, leads, if you're running ads with us, will live in Client Stack. You get notified via email. They go to a sales pipeline. That's, hey, new ad lead, and their information that they'll fill out on that landing page to get your attention, to tell you about their problem, to get scheduled, whatever the conversion mechanism is. They live in Client Stack. And your job is to basically do what all sales is: work the pipeline, do the first call, do the follow up. And the follow up for us is both, it can be specific to your meeting, right? You can build some automation to follow up with people, like, hey, love meeting with you. Here's some key takeaways or some ideas that then are triggered within Client Stack. But then there's also our weekly email nurture, and that's separate. So we write weekly emails that at a minimum you want to send, just because it's relational, it's first person, it's authoritative and building trust. A lot of people, especially higher value leads, they don't close on the first call. Some things are pretty transactional in our space. Like if someone just needs tax preparation, they call you, they found you online, they get the quote, they're in, right? They need it done, it's done. But if you're looking for bookkeeping or advisory services or tax planning or whatever it may be, usually there's a bit of a sales cycle, right? Hopefully you've got an idea of what your sales cycle is. That's where Client Stack can help you frame a multi-step process where you don't lose leads that don't close on the first call. That's important. It's important to have a process for your leads to go through that you've thought through, so that you and your team can have visibility. You can follow up accordingly, and you can not have a hole in your bucket as it relates to the leads that we're generating. I would just say that's one thing I would definitely spend some time on. You don't need to have it all built out. You just need to know that I need to go into Client Stack. I need to look at my ads pipeline of new leads, and I need to call them or get them scheduled if they're not already, or follow up with them. And then you move them through kind of a Kanban sales board is what it is. So just columns, just different columns, first call, email follow-up, second call. That's one reason why I see ad campaigns fail. And that's not just with us, that's just in general. You don't have a sales process, or you don't have even a place that holds your leads. I've met too many people that are using sticky notes to keep track of their leads, or it's emails in their inbox. Those are not good sales systems. And your brain at 3 a.m. is also not a good sales system, where you just wake up and you're like, oh, I forgot about this lead from a week ago that I haven't called back because I've been so busy. If you're going to do this, one of the things we want to do is to keep you in a place of peace. I want you to stay peaceful in the midst of growth. And you don't have to say yes to everyone. But if you run ads, I'm going to give you opportunities to close new people. And that's where Client Stack can be very, very helpful. But Vlad, I love what you said as well about not paying attention to the data. I think that those two things, guys, are things that we're naming, because if you decide to run ads with us, we want you to succeed. We're trying to set you up to succeed by giving you this type of information. So if you're not running ads right now, if you're in this chat, in this call, or if you're watching this as a recording later, think about who's going to do your optimization. Hopefully it's us, right? That's what we do. We'll handle Vlad's part. And what's your sales process? And again, we have Client Stack. You'll get that process from us, and we can teach and train you how to utilize that as well. But Vlad, we only got a few minutes left before I want to do a little Q&A. Let's talk about the difference between Facebook and Google. We do a lot of Google ads, but we do Facebook ads too. Why would someone, we've talked about intent based on Google. There's intent around the searches and the ways that your campaign shows up for different keywords. But tell us about Facebook. What are the appropriate situations to run a Facebook ad campaign? Why would you look at that or maybe not look at that? The differences, I'll just let you riff on that for a few minutes.
Yeah, so there are a few major differences, obviously. I'm going to try to not use techie language all that too much. So essentially, intent-based, that's Google. Interest-based, that's Facebook. So that's how you differentiate these two groups of people that are on Google, that are on Facebook. So essentially what's going on is Google is, when we're doing Google Ads campaigns, that's a great source of higher quality leads, let's say. Sometimes you can get lower quality leads on Google, but that's more of an exception than a rule. Usually on Google Ads, you are getting higher intent audiences, higher intent people in through the door. On Facebook, it's different. Facebook can be utilized not just for lead generation, it can also be utilized for brand awareness and for raising consideration, for generating email lists, for
Yeah.
a whole, it's much more diverse, it's much different. It can be a bit trickier even than Google Ads to run and to appropriately assess performance of. So on Google Ads, it's kind of straightforward. You run ads with the goal 99% of the time to get leads. On Facebook, that might not be your main goal. So sometimes you want to do a lead magnet. You want to hand out a book, you want to hand out an ebook or a
Right.
guide or something, or maybe you're doing a free webinar, maybe you're doing something that you're essentially trying to reach a certain audience and not necessarily sell to them immediately. You're trying to reach a middle of the funnel or top of the funnel audience to get acquainted with yourself, with your business, and with what you do, and then build up your audience that way, and then go from there. So that's like the biggest difference of how these two are used. So Facebook can also be used for lead, just straight up lead generation, but it's much, much better to use Facebook for something of this kind. So it's kind of if you think about it, it's tougher sell. So if you're scrolling Facebook or Instagram and you're not there to get sold on services, you're there to have fun. So you visit Instagram or Facebook to see what your friends are up to, or to see what some of the businesses you like are also up. So what everybody's doing, you're just there for maybe some mild entertainment, you're just killing some time. And you're scrolling in, and you need, like, if you're doing ads, if you're thinking about it on the other end, you essentially need to stop somebody from scrolling. You need a scroll stopper, you need to get their attention somehow, get people's attention in some way. You're not going to get their attention if you do. You're scrolling through Facebook, you see 3 of your friends' latest videos or pictures, and then the 4th one is an ad that says, accounting services, Wisconsin. And that's it, right? So that's not good, right? You need to do something else. you
Yes.
you need to tell somebody, hey, get this free tax guide right now for free, right? You can use it later. You don't need to do it now. You're not pulling somebody's attention in and away from what they were doing fully. You're just engaging with them in a kind of a different way. You're just telling them, hey,
Yeah.
since you're here, you can just get this for free, right? They get it for
Yeah.
free. They sign up, they leave their basic information that's usually auto-filled by Facebook, which is great. And then you get them in your system. They get a free thing, you get them in your system, you can send them an email later. Somebody might pop in, right? Somebody might actually need your services out of that audience, out of that group. So that's like the main difference. Facebook allows you to target many different kinds of people, not just lead gen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's well said. That's well said. I would say another thing you could try on Facebook is like a case study, stories, client success stories, which again takes time to put together. But if you have testimonials or stories, oh, weird. Okay, that's the note taker just put a comment in the thread for one of y'all that said it's quiet in here. Are you done? And I thought it was a human, but it's just a AI robot. Welcome to 2024, guys. We got robots telling us what's going on. Anyways, I think that one thing you can consider with Facebook, it's a slower build. That's one thing you can distill or take away from what Vlad's telling you. It's a slower process. It's building a list. It's building a pipeline that you can work. If you do any teaching, if you have a course, if you have some specialization that you could offer, great, but also just client success stories. You saved someone X on taxes. You got some tax resolution problem resolved. You did whatever it may be. I think people love stories, right? And if you have a story that has some great data and details that the client would be willing to talk about, again, heavier lift. That takes time. You got to record videos, have a plan, but it can be really powerful. It can be really powerful to use that environment to, again, share those types of stories in addition to the white paper, the download, something that builds your audience. And it's not as punchy as Google. It doesn't tend to be, but with the right deliverable, I would tell you in the right plan, Vlad, tell me I'm wrong. Facebook and meta ads in general, which is kind of Facebook and Instagram, can be wildly powerful. Wildly powerful. If you have a story to tell or something of value to offer, it's not going to get people on your calendar as quick as Google, but it's worth, again, even just the brand awareness of you following them around on Facebook and social media and just those checkpoints, those touch points you need to have to build credibility before someone makes a buying decision. If they see you and your face or your brand on Facebook and Google, you have great reviews and your website's amazing and your emails are on point, you just start to look the part, right? Before they've ever made a decision. You start to build trust and authority when you are omnipresent around the internet.
Obviously, a good advertiser needs to know how to walk the line between being obnoxious and present. So
Yep.
there's that also on Facebook that you need to keep in mind of.
Yes. Well said. Okay, Vlad, is there anything that we haven't hit yet?
Yeah, I just wanted to, for example, right now address, since we've started doing Facebook ads fully a few
Yes.
months ago, just wanted to share quickly,
Sure.
like I'm looking at one of the accounts that we've been doing Facebook ads for. We started up with them a little less, like about exactly actually a month ago, and we got a total of 51. So can I share? I might want to share this. So this is what we're seeing in the last 30 days for this particular account. I don't know if it's visible or not.
We can see it.
Yeah. So this just looks absolutely amazing. That's 51 leads at $25.71 per lead, $1,311 of total ad spend in the last. So we started on October 8th, which is truly incredible, especially
Yes.
considering that we're not doing. So, for example, these leads we're not doing landing pages for, which is
Right.
wild. And that's something that we did not touch up on before. We're doing on Facebook leads, and we're doing on Facebook leads that are actually, they're not like, hey, leave us just your name, phone number, etc. We're actually filtering a lot of traffic through these leads, through these instant forms. So this $25 per lead number is actually, it could be at least 50% lower if we had a form or a survey that was less robust. So we're using intentionally, we're using a more robust survey for these ads so that we filter out any people who might not actually be interested in retirement tax planning in this case. So $25 per lead for, I would say, medium to high quality leads is absolutely amazing. So that's what we're
Yeah.
seeing on Facebook right now. Just wanted to share that with you because I
Yes.
caught on to this one just before the call, actually, and thought it might be worthwhile sharing what we're
Absolutely.
seeing on
No,
our end.
that's amazing. And guys, that's kind of how you think about it is $25 for 50 leads in a month. And they downloaded some item that this campaign has put forward around retirement tax planning. And how many of you would love to be able to go and start to filter through some of those leads and do some follow up, ask questions? Hey, you got the download from us. Tell me more about your problem. You just start a conversation and you just fill your hopper. Again, we say this all the time. There's not one way to get 99 customers. There's 99 ways to get one customer, and you should probably think about doing all of them. You should do everything you can to get good qualified leads into your pipeline. Google is not the only one. Google is going to be the most punchy, but Facebook, if you have something like this individual does that we can put forward and then do testing on, that would be a worthwhile download in the Facebook environment. It absolutely is worth $25 a lead. That's Awesome. That's really good for the cost per lead. Now, it's not a customer yet, but as you start at the top of this funnel and you work your way down, that's a very affordable lead as it relates to digital marketing in general. So Vlad, thank you for sharing that with us. That's awesome. But thank you if you joined us via recording. If you're watching this in our members area or wherever you're finding us, we would love to talk to you more about ads, talk to you more about all parts of marketing. We are certainly here to help. We're glad to have you guys with us today. Thank you, and we will catch you next time. Okay, until then, see you later.
Thanks for listening to the Pro Marketer Podcast. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web, and we'll see you next time.